History often reduces Tipu Sultan to a symbol. To some, he is a fearless anti-colonial hero. To others, a ruthless ruler. But symbols are shortcuts, and shortcuts hide reality. Tipu Sultan was not just a warrior. He was a state builder, an economic reformer, a technological innovator, and one of the earliest Asian rulers to understand the true nature of European imperial power. Long before most of the world recognized the danger of the British East India Company, Tipu Sultan saw it clearly. This was not trade, it was conquest, disguised as commerce. To understand Tipu Sultan, we must move beyond slogans and battlefield myths. We must examine how he governed, how he financed war, how he reorganized an economy, and why, despite his vision, he ultimately fell. This is the complete story of Tipu Sultan. The world Tipu was born into 1750s India in the mid-18th century. India was one of the richest regions on earth. It produced nearly 25% of global GDP. The world's finest textiles, massive agricultural surpluses, skilled artisans, unmatched anywhere but politically. India was fragmented. The Mughal Empire still existed in name, but real power had collapsed. Regional states rose to fill the vacuum. Marathas Nizam of Hyderabad, Nawabs of Bengal, Kingdom of Mysore. Into this unstable world entered a new kind of force, not an empire, a corporation. The British East India Company. It did not conquer openly. It loaned money, it controlled trade, and when resistance appeared, it used armies paid for by Indian revenue. Hyder Ali, the making of a dynasty. Tipu Sultan was born in 1751 as Fateh Ali, the son of Hyder Ali. Hyder Ali was not born royalty. He rose through military skill, intelligence, and political instinct. By the 1760s, Hyder Ali had seized control of Mysore and transformed it into a centralized, militarized state. He understood three truths. 1. European powers were dangerous. 2. Modern warfare required discipline and technology. 3. Revenue, not lineage, decided power. Tipu grew up inside this reality. He was trained not just in warfare, but in administration, diplomacy, economics, foreign languages. By his teens, Tipu was already leading troops. Tipu's education, a ruler, not just a warrior. Unlike many princes of his time, Tipu Sultan was deeply educated. He spoke Persian, Urdu, Kannada, Arabic. He studied Islamic governance, mathematics, military, science, political philosophy. Tipu believed kingship was a responsibility, not a privilege. He kept detailed records. He personally reviewed reports, and he believed the state should be efficient, disciplined, and independent. This mindset would define his rule. The first wars against the British saw Mysore as a threat, not because it was aggressive, but because it was independent. First, Anglo-Mysore, War I, 767-1769. Hyder Ali and a young Tipu fought the British to a standstill. The war ended with the Treaty of Madras. The British agreed to mutual defense. They would later betray it. Tipu learned an early lesson. British treaties were temporary. Tipu Sultan becomes ruler 1782 when Hyder Ali died in 1782. Tipu inherited a state at war. He was only 31, yet he took command immediately. He reorganized the army. He centralized authority, and he prepared for a long struggle. Tipu crowned himself Sultan but ruled as a reformer. Economic reforms, the financial brain of Mysore. Tipu Sultan understood something crucial. Wars are won by economies. Land revenue reform. Tipu surveyed land scientifically, fixed tax rates, reduced intermediary exploitation, increased state revenue, predictability, state-controlled trade. He nationalized key industries. Sandalwood, spices, pepper. Why? Because European companies used monopolies to extract wealth. Tipu used monopolies to protect sovereignty. Currency and administration. He introduced new coinage, standardized weights, central accounting. This was economic nationalism, 18th century style. Military innovation, rockets and modern warfare. Tipu Sultan was obsessed with military technology. Mysore rockets were not toys. They used iron casings matched in Europe. They terrified British troops. British engineers later copied them. These rockets influenced European artillery for decades. Tipu Also, drilled troops professionally, used combined arms, tactics, integrated cavalry, infantry, and artillery. Mysore was one of Asia's most modern armies. Diplomacy. Tipu versus the world. Tipu knew Mysore could not stand alone. He sought alliances with Ottoman Empire, France, Afghanistan. He even sent embassies to Paris. But geopolitics moved faster than diplomacy. France was weakened by revolution. Help never arrived. Religious policy. Myth versus reality. Tipu Sultan's religious policies are heavily politicized. The reality is complex. He was a devout Muslim, but he appointed Hindus to high office-funded Hindu temples, ruled a majority Hindu population. He could be harsh. So were most 18th century rulers. Judging Tipu requires historical context, not modern slogans. The final war and the siege of Seringapatam 1799, the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, was decisive. The British assembled, company troops, Indian isles, superior numbers. Mysore was isolated. During the siege, Tipu refused to flee. He famously said, "It is better to live one day as a tiger than 1,000 years as a sheep." On May 4, 1799, Tipu Sultan was killed, defending his capital. Aftermath. The cost of defeat. After Tipu's death, Mysore was dismantled, wealth was looted. British dominance in South India became permanent. The last major Indian resistance before 1857 was crushed. Why Tipu Sultan lost? Not because he lacked courage, but because he faced a global empire. His allies failed. Corporate capitalism outmatched regional states. Tipu fought the future. Conclusion. Tipu Sultan's real legacy. Tipu Sultan was ahead of his time. He understood economic sovereignty, technological parity, imperial deception. He lost the war, but he exposed the system. And that is why his story still matters. Because Tipu Sultan did not fight for glory. He fought for independence. Before the word became popular, the British narrative and the war for memory. Tipu Sultan did not just lose a war in 1799. He lost control over how history would be written. After Seringapatam fell, British officers, administrators, and historians moved quickly, not only to divide Mysore, but to shape the narrative of Tipu's life. Why? Because empires do not survive on force alone. They survive on legitimacy. And Tipu Sultan represented something dangerous. Proof that an Indian ruler had understood British imperial strategy and resisted it effectively. British accounts increasingly portrayed Tipu as a fanatic, a tyrant, an irrational despot. This framing served a purpose. If Tipu was a villain, then conquest became liberation. If he was cruel, British rule became order. This was not unique to India. It was a pattern repeated across the empire. Many British writers ignored key facts. Tipu employed Hindus at the highest levels of administration. He funded temples, including Sringeri. His harsh policies were consistent with 18th century warfare norms. Instead, selective stories were amplified. History became another battlefield. Mysore after Tipu. From sovereignty to subordination. With Tipu Sultan dead, Mysore did not disappear, but it no longer ruled itself. The British restored the Wodeyar dynasty, but real power rested with company residents. Mysore became a princely state, not a sovereign one. Economic reversal. Under Tipu, Mysore had pursued state-led industrial policy, export control, military self-reliance. After 1799, these priorities were reversed. British policies opened Mysore markets to British goods, dismantled state monopolies, redirected revenue to company interests. Local industries declined. Artisans lost state protection. Mysore shifted from producer to consumer. This was not mismanagement, it was design. Tipu Sultan and the global anti-colonial tradition. Tipu Sultan's struggle did not exist in isolation. Across the world, the same forces were colliding. Corporate power, industrial militaries, traditional states. Tipu belongs to a global category of leaders who resisted early imperial capitalism. Toussaint Louverture in Haiti, Abdelkader in Algeria, Nadir Shah in Persia. What made Tipu different was timing. He confronted imperial capitalism before most of the world understood it. Mysore under Tipu showed early signs of industrial thinking. State workshops, standardized military production, skilled labor specialization. The rocket program alone demonstrated an understanding of mass production, tactical innovation. Had Mysore survived another generation, it might have followed a path similar to Meiji Japan, early industrial Europe. Instead, British rule froze industrial development. India would be reindustrialized, but only as a supplier of raw materials. Religion, resistance, and modern politics. In modern times, Tipu Sultan's legacy has become politicized. He is alternately celebrated or condemned, not always based on evidence, but on identity. This reflects a deeper issue. Colonial history fractured societies. Post-colonial politics inherited those fractures. Tipu Sultan becomes a symbol onto which modern anxieties are projected. But history demands nuance. He was a devout Muslim ruler, governing a plural society in an era of brutal warfare. Reducing him to a single label, hero or villain, erases reality. What Tipu Sultan teaches about power. Tipu Sultan's life offers lessons that go far beyond India. Trade can be a weapon. The East India Company conquered not with soldiers alone but with credit, contracts, and control of markets. Tipu understood this. That is why he resisted company trade. Military strength requires economic depth. Tipu built a modern army, but without allies and scale, even innovation has limits. Independence requires institutions. Charisma is temporary. Institutions endure. Tipu was building institutions, but time ran out. Tipu Sultan in Indian memory among ordinary people. Tipu Sultan survived differently than in textbooks and folk songs. In local histories, in oral memory, he is remembered not as perfect but as resistant, as someone who refused submission. That memory mattered. It influenced later resistance movements, the idea that colonialism was not destiny. Final reflection. The man who fought the future Tipu Sultan did not lose because he misunderstood his enemy. He lost because he understood them too early. He saw that empire had changed, that conquest now wore the mask of commerce, that treaties were tools, that corporations could rule like kings. Tipu Sultan stood at the edge of two worlds, one dying, one emerging. He chose to fight, and in doing so, he left behind more than a battlefield. He left behind a warning, because the story of Tipu Sultan is not only about the past, it is about how power disguises itself, and how resistance, no matter how brave, must evolve as fast as empire does. Epilogue. Why Tipu Sultan still matters today in an age of corporate power, economic dependency. When equal trade, Tipu Sultan's questions remain unanswered. Who controls markets? Who writes rules? And who pays the cost? That is why Tipu Sultan still matters, not as myth, but as history. If you want to uncover the untold stories of history that they don't teach in school, hit that subscribe button now and join the journey.